Where is the center of the universe? There are tons of ways to define it, but if we place ourselves humans in the center of attention, then it's kind of close to the Burmese town of Mong, Khet, at least for now, because it can change sometimes. But OMG, why? What makes this otherwise unremarkable 45,000 people town in an underdeveloped country the center of the world? Let's get deep into this whole idea of finding the center of the universe. There are different perspectives on this, like physics, geography, history, and demographics, you name it. First off, let's talk about the physics side of things. Scientists have been checking it out, and if there's such a thing as a center of the universe, it's definitely not anywhere near Earth, that's for sure. But hey, there are still some folks who believe that Earth is the center of it all. Here's the deal. Earth is just one of the many planets spinning around our star. And guess what? There are millions of other stars just like ours in the Milky Way, and most of them have planets. And on top of that, there are millions of other galaxies out there too. So, nothing super special about our planet, solar system, or even galaxy. That would make us the center of everything. Plus, the global microwave background, it's a big thing in science, shows that space looks pretty much the same in all directions, meaning there's no clear center. Pretty wild, right? But hold up, what about Earth? Where's its center at? Alright, so there have been a bunch of ways people tried to find the center of the Earth, but each method gives a different answer. Like some researchers went for the center of gravity approach, trying to figure out where the Earth's mass is all balanced. It ends up pointing to some spot deep inside the Earth's core, but honestly, we'll never see it, and we're not really bothered by whether it's a bit to the left or right. Same goes for the geometrical center, which is just the point where the sum of distances to all other points on the globe is the lowest. Now let's shift our focus to the surface. One geometric method suggests calculating the center of the smallest circle that fits around all the landmasses. And guess what? It's right here. That's called the centroid of all the land areas on the two-dimensional geoid surface, which approximates the Earth's outer shape. Phew, it took me 3 tries to get that one. Alright, now let's talk about some theories that scientists have totally dismissed. But some conspiracy folks still dig. You've heard of the flat Earth model, right? Yeah, most ancient and even some modern peeps believed the Earth was like a flat plane or disk covered by this firmament thing with the stars and stuff. Crazy, huh? Ancient Greece, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Near East, India, China, and the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas. All of them believed in flat Earth. But in that model, the idea of a center actually makes sense. Like, if the Earth were flat, it'd totally have a specific geographic center. Different cultures had different spots in mind, but they all agreed there was a center somewhere. But yeah, these days, we know Earth ain't flat. Now, check this out. Back in 1864, this man, the royal astronomer for Scotland named Charles Piazzi Smith, claimed the center was at the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. He was all like, yeah, I figured this out by carefully adding up all the habitable land on Earth. Interesting, right? Now this gets even more interesting. In October of that same year, Smith suggested that the prime meridian, you know, that line of longitude, from which we measure everything else, should be set at the Great Pyramid's location. He thought it was the perfect spot because it would pass over more land than any other location. And for some reason, he considered that to be super useful. Plus, he was all about its cultural significance and how close it was to Jerusalem. But here's the twist. The expert committee in charge of deciding where to put the prime meridian had a different idea. They went with Greenwich, you know, the one in London. Why? Because so many ships were using the port of London, and that made it a practical choice for global navigation. So Greenwich won the vote, and that's why it's the prime meridian today. But you know how we humans always tend to think we're at the center of everything? Well, it's kind of cool to think about where the center of the human population actually is. So there's this thing called the Valeriepieris circle, and it's this circular area on the world map centered in the South China Sea. It's about 4,000 kilometers, 2,500 miles, wide, which is like roughly 6.7% of the Earth's total surface area. And get this, it holds more than half of the entire world's population. It got its name from the Reddit username of Ken Myers, a Texas ESL teacher who first noticed this phenomenon back in 2013. The map went viral and became a meme, showing up in all sorts of media. Now in 2015, Danny Kwa, a professor of economics at the London School of Economics and Political Science, decided to put the circle to the test. He verified the claim and slightly adjusted the circle to leave out most of Japan. He used a globe model instead of just a map projection and did more precise calculations. By his findings, as of 2015, half of the world's population lived within a 3,300 kilometer, 2,050 mile, radius of the city of Mong in Myanmar. This corresponds to roughly 4.5% of the total Earth's surface area, or about 15% of the land area. Fast forward to 2022, and yet another professor, named Riaz Shah, retested the original circle. Using data from the UN World Population Prospects, he found that a whopping 4.2 billion people live inside the circle, out of the total 8 billion worldwide. Pretty amazing, right? And get this. Even though a third of this circle is just an ocean, it includes vast stretches of sparsely populated areas in Siberia and Mongolia. It is still uber populated, and it was always like that. Back in the year 1000, the distribution of the human population looked kind of similar to today. Most folks were hanging out in Asia, but back then the whole continent had less than 300 million people. Not like the crazy 4 billion we have now. But wait, there's more cool stuff about the Valeriepieris circle. Inside it, you'll find more Muslims, more Hindus, and more Buddhists compared to outside. Even the communists, there is more of them in the circle than outside of it. However, when it comes to religions, you'd still find more Christians and Jews outside the circle. Here comes more. It manages to hold the most sparsely populated country on the entire planet, Mongolia. Not too shabby, right? But that's not all, my friend. The circle also boasts the highest mountain and the deepest trench in the whole world. Talk about having it all. Let's keep going. 22 of the world's 37 massive megacities, those with at least 10 million people, are tucked inside the circle. That's impressive. Plus, the circle includes the 5 most populous cities on Earth: Tokyo, Jakarta, Seoul, Karachi, and Shanghai. And together, these cities alone are home to a jaw-dropping 145 million people. Now, at first glance, the map might seem surprising, but when you think about it, it totally makes sense. I mean, the circle contains or covers most of the world's first, China. Second, India. Fourth, Indonesia. Sixth, Pakistan. Seventh, Bangladesh. And 10th, Japan, most populous countries. It's like a powerhouse of people, all in one incredible circle. All right, let's break this down. So what's the big deal with this town of 45,000 people? Why are so many folks all gathered around it? Well, first off, the Himalayas play a huge role. They bring in massive rainfall and provide river drainage, creating some crazy fertile lands in India, Indochina, and China. Plus, these areas are pretty close to the equator, giving them great growing seasons all year round. Unlike those harsh European winters, access to food is never a big issue here. Also, a lot of these places have been united or stable for a long time, and that's like a superpower for boosting population growth. And guess what? Easy access to the sea is a big deal. Even cities further inland in China can travel around easily thanks to flat terrain and river travel. It's like a well-connected web. Okay, let's get environmental. You can kind of compare this area to the eastern side of the Americas, but here's the kicker. Eurasian civilizations have had domesticated animals for millennia, which gave them a big advantage. They also had super profitable trade routes. Silk Road, anyone? Especially with all that coastline and the highly mobile Mongolian nations facilitating the trade. Plus, they had a different experience when those Europeans showed up, because they were more resistant to new diseases and had established empires that couldn't be wiped out like in Mesoamerica. But wait, there's more. Culture, religion, and development needs play their parts too. These countries had fewer resources compared to the Americas, so their governments relied on taxation and human development to make some cash. They needed professionals for the economy, and for that, people had to live longer, healthier lives and have more children who'd grow up healthier too. Now, I gotta be honest, some of this is just educated guesses, so if you got some thoughts or corrections, hit me up in the comments. Let's figure this population puzzle out together. Alright, let's geek out a bit here. Some of you might get all pedantic and say, hey, that section of the map above might look like a circle, but on the real Earth, it wouldn't be. Instead, it would look more like this. You see, this map projection thingy, Winkle triple to be precise, messes with the world's shape. No need to think of it as criticism, though. All projections mess up things in their own way. So a real world circle wouldn't appear as a perfect circle on this map. Here's the thing that really gets me thinking. Sure, this map projection might not give us a perfect circle for the center of the universe, but it shows us something incredibly profound. It reveals that 6 out of every 10 people on this vast planet we call home live in Asia. Just let that sink in for a moment. 4 times more than any other continent. It's an astonishing concentration of humanity in this part of the world. And you know what? Instead of getting hung up on a specific geographical center, maybe we should take a moment to reflect on what this means. This circle, with all its complexity and diversity, holds billions of lives, each one unique with dreams, hopes, and aspirations. It's a reminder of our shared existence on this beautiful blue planet. We are not defined by a specific point on a map, but by the compassion and empathy we show to one another. So let's cherish our diversity and celebrate our shared humanity. In the end, it's not about finding a singular center, but about realizing that we are all part of a global community, and in that unity lies the potential to create a brighter, more harmonious world for all. So let's open our hearts and minds, and together let's shape a future that cherishes the beautiful tapestry of human existence.